Hello and welcome back. This is part two of our LinkedIn introductory video. Um, Here we're going to talk about the different types of pages that we have. Profiles, again, this is really an overview of the strategy of just companies using LinkedIn. There will be a separate compare a couple of videos that look at the actual content strategy and how you want to approach it as an individual and as a company. So, I start this section off with the idea, with the point of company pages alone won't cut it because a lot of businesses they have people running company pages and only that, and they kind of live in a vacuum. They live in a bubble where they just create content on a company page. Which I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you probably know what that is, and you probably know what a personal profile is. So I'm not going to go through breaking it down both types, but I am going to compare them. So, the company page and the personal profile are pretty different. The algorithm works in general the same way. You need authentic informational content, and it gets delivered to a test audience. In the first, they used to say hour. It's probably a little bit more than that, and it's also based on the topic of your content. This is different from the past. This is a new update within the last year. Previously, again, up until the last 12 months or so, LinkedIn would share your content to your audience and their audiences. That's it. So people that were distant but might be in your niche, they probably weren't going to see your stuff. Now we see an algorithm that distributes content more similar to what TikTok does, and really more kind of what the general algorithm um, has become across all social networks. And that is based on content topics. So it's not friend based, it's not connection based, it is topic based. Now, from a personal profile, if you've ever published anything before, you know the drill. Um, you need people to engage with your post in order to reach a broader audience. And usually you need something more than just text. Text only posts don't perform very well. It's not great, but also it can be difficult to reach a broad segment of your audience. And, it's supposed to be a personal post, right? You can post stuff, whether that be an announcement of a new job, that can be something of sharing case studies, some best practices, some humble brags, or it can just be sharing some authentic points that could act as thought leadership, right? Those are all good things to share on your personal profile. But your median engagement rate is pretty low. It's only 4.7%, which means for every 100 people, or every 100, I should say, impressions, every 100 views of your post, only four of them are going, 4 to 5 are going to take some sort of engagement. But that's great compared to the company page. The company page is when you publish a post, that's going to a smaller audience. It is difficult to really reach a large percentage of your following. When we look at like company pages and personal pages, usually company pages have more followers than people have connections, right? So a company page, a lot of small, usually company pages have anywhere from 500 to 500,000 followers, which is a wide range, but you know, that's kind of it's a low end, high end type of thing. Personal pages, you're usually living at between 1,000 and 3,000. Anything more than I'd say 5,000, and you are already in the upper echelon of personal profiles. And it becomes, but also like your personal post is going to reach more total individuals than any company post is usually going to do. And that's really because of the algorithm, because of how this works. And there's always going to be the occasional company post that skyrockets and reaches 10, 20,000 people. That's because those are the posts which connect to the right individuals who engage in the right way, which then amplify a post and get them out to the right individuals, right? those are few and far between. If you consistently do that, you're doing something right. Like you're at the top of your game. It's a lot easier to do that with a personal post just because it's going to more people up front. As a result, we end up with a median engagement rate on the company page of only 2%. So much, much lower. Again, some pages are much higher. I manage several company pages right now. I'm looking at about a 10 to 11% median, not median, 10% engagement rate average across all posts. But that's because I've been doing this for a long time and very familiar with the audiences, which, that's a big part of this. Now, with company posts, though, again, we're not going over a ton of any of those examples here, but those are things that need to get people to stop scrolling, or at the very least, they need to get employees to stop scrolling. So LinkedIn knows, of course, who works for your company because people put that in their profile, and it connects back to the company page. And those are people that often will see the company posts. Now, that's great, but then also it helps if they share content on their own. It can take a bunch of different forms. You don't want them publishing the exact same thing as the company page, but this is really where the kind of the beginning of this, my whole thesis here on LinkedIn comes into play. That a company page itself is not going to be able to get the word out, but the company page plus employees doing the same is going to have an exponentially better result. So this, if you look at these down here, are impressions. And again, this says when it happens when your people post. So this is this doesn't just mean them resharing or reposting the company post. I mean, it can, but overall, it's when they share something in their own words. Let's say you have a big new product announcement or a big press release about something that's happened. When employees share something in their own words, that goes much further than the official company line. So here, impressions, they almost triple when they're posting. And again, when people post, we are looking at like the employee multiplier is the actual company news here, right? So when the people share it, you're getting 3 times the impressions on the announcement. The engagements are jumping up to 5 times, and the reach, which is the unique individuals who see something, that's going up 6.6 times. And just a reminder, impressions are total views on something, and reach is unique individuals. That is massive. Now, you look at the numbers on the side. 3% of employees who share generate 30% of a page's engagement. That would mean they are either sharing the post, they're tagging the page, they're doing something to connect their post back to the company page, and they are getting a lot more engagements back on that initial page. It's something that is a huge driver, and it seems, for me, I thought it was outlandish and a little far-fetched that, hey, somebody's sharing a post in their own words, and all they're doing is tagging the company page. But lo and behold, the company page gets a lot more visitors, a lot more people on the page, and a lot more new people that the company post alone would not otherwise be able to achieve. So that's a really big step here. And again, all of this works when there's when there's people either sharing the company post or they're sharing it in their own words. And as a result, bring all that together and you have your winning structure. So this means, these are the 3 elements. On one side, we have the company page. This is the hub. This is the official company line. It's the news. It is the kind of like where it all starts. There's an option on the company page, if you're managing that you can notify employees when a post goes live, and it'll show up in their notifications. Like here's a post if you want to share it. Then you have the personal pages, right? This is where you can really get content amplified. Now, you can do different things here. Some people, some companies like to just ask employees to blanket repost the company page content. I don't usually do that. I recommend people share something in their own words, and I'll give some recommended content, some recommended text, and some recommended images to share. That way, they have a starting point, but I always want them to kind of lead with their own voice because for me, I would rather have them write something unique from their own perspective than just copy something that already that that we wrote for them. I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of people that I know publish posts that are clearly not written by them, where it's either written by AI or if it's not written by AI, you know that they were given that content and told to post it. It's just not authentic. It doesn't feel human, and it feels almost like a cult. Like the company is a cult. We all can. If you're a LinkedIn power user, like what I'm talking about. These kind of like cultish posts, they're not great. So but how does this work? How do these work all together? Um, they're different. Like it's not. You don't need to have all three of these. And it really kind of depends on the company itself. So, for example, for me, I have a company where it's just me. I'm a freelancer. I just have my own brand. I'm in that second bucket. I have my personal page. I really just use that. Not large enough to build a brand on a company page, and I don't have employees, so that side doesn't work. But if there's a smaller business and you have like 10 employees, I think it's important to try to build the brand with a company page. And then from there, use the leadership element as well to expand the reach. I don't think employees are necessary at that point because there's so few of them. And when it comes to a small business, like leadership is really critical. If you can have all three elements, that's great. But I think it's really just necessary to have these first two because you need brand building from the company page, but you need expanded reach with the personal pages. And then with larger enterprises, think universities, think larger corporations like 100+ companies. That's where you need to leverage the full network. That's where you need the added firepower. The company page, that's still the record, the source of record. That is where we start. But from there, um, uh, leadership chiming in and people scattered throughout the company sharing their perspectives, that goes a lot further. That does, that's where you see a true amplification and you see exponential growth instead of just kind of that incremental improvement. So those are how I look at the winning structure here, but at three different sizes. Now, here, I'm going to get back into this in the next presentation. So I am going to kind of jump past this pretty quickly. The big takeaway here is your average engagement rate across the whole platform is 5%. That is everybody. You saw earlier, there was 4.7%. So you might be confused, like, why is this different? Well, that was the median number. The average comes up because there are some people who have sky high numbers. These LinkedIn influencers, these content creators who live and die on LinkedIn, they are seeing 20, 30%. So they are bringing up the average from 4.7 to 5.2. That's a pretty big jump if you're big into statistics at all. So, the reason that I show this here is averages and medians. Those are important to see and look at the difference because you don't want to use a creator with 200,000 followers as the benchmark. If you don't get 700 comments on a post within 12 hours, it's not like you're failing, right? That's not at all normal. If you can, I do think 5.2 is a nice number to strive for in terms of an average. But if you're down in the fours, like the median number from earlier suggests, again, that is okay too. Now, the other big takeaway here, video. My goodness. Video has completely plummeted over the last couple of years, and it continues to fall. Over the last 12 months, the reach, so, number of individual, actual unique individuals that we're reaching is down 30, over a third. Pretty massive. I have a small typo that should say demand, but it is incredible the rate that it's falling. So, hey, if you have a question of should we use video or not, the answer is no, absolutely not. Also, if you look at the different types of formats, you'll see text only, video, multi image, and carousels. I will go into all of these up next, but I strategically did not include the type of post that is the highest performing, and that is text and single image, because I want to talk about that more later. These are just 4 different benchmarks so you can see the differences. Now, my last slide here in the end of this first presentation are our business takeaways. So if you're in B2B and you're considering a social media strategy, LinkedIn's got to be a part of that. Again, just look at that 80% number from earlier. But also, the company page is not enough. I like to say it starts with the company page and whoever's managing it. So that's the person. Those 2 pages together can be a nice little tag team, but then to see some true growth, you're going to have to do a little bit more. It's got to go further. Then from there, we need to activate the team if you can. This is, again, if it's just you, or if it's just you and a couple others, maybe not necessary, but you need to activate the people as you go. So as the company grows, so too should the influence on LinkedIn. But also, in terms of top content, I put here that carousels are, topping the format ranking in terms of company page stuff. And while that may be the case, those are the things that can get the most engagements. Again, we're going to talk about it in the next one. But there are really it's really interesting just to see how much these can vary over time. They can go up, they can go down, and it really is based on the individuals who are seeing this, based on your content, based on the topics that you're sharing. And then finally, LinkedIn's not just for fun. You should have an actual purpose. It should have an actual purpose, and it's important to always be iterating, always be improving, and trying to figure out what is the content that's working best, what are the formats that are working best. And also this with, I don't go much more into employee advocacy in this course, but LinkedIn is the place to do something with employee advocacy. Work with the people in the business if you can. If you want to meet them where they are in terms of getting them to be active on LinkedIn, because the most important thing is you want them to share their story, their point of view on their experiences in the company. Hopefully they're positive. And just giving them blanket text to copy and paste is probably not going to work, because it's naturally inauthentic. So you want to treat LinkedIn really as a strong driver of employee activation. And as time goes on, you also want to look at it as a true lead pipeline, so that in the B2B space, it can be a real spot to find some new future business, even if that lead nurturing process takes a while. So that is all I have for now. I will go on to my next set of slides here, where we look at more of the LinkedIn content strategy from an individual posting point of view.